First of all, a little hat tip to Michael Barron for these stats. In his first 5 games with the Mets, Jay Bruce went 4 for 20. 2 of those hits were home runs. He's 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. And he was thrown out at the plate to end a game. Yep, he's a Mets all right. Mets Wrap 360 starts now.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
You know, I don't think we deserve this song this week, but we're going to listen to it anyway because, as I've said many times here on the show, it's hard to not be happy when you hear this song. It's an uplifting, feel-good kind of experience. East Side, West Side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets, which unfortunately we spent a lot of time getting to meet these Mets this week, and we'll talk a lot about that here in the next 40 minutes or so here on Mets Wrap 360. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Christian Bladt, on Twitter at ChristianDMZ. Please remember that the show is at EBTV Mets, if you want to follow the show on Twitter. Matt Ritter, Andrea Fasano, still on assignment, but they will be back next week. To my left, camera right, joining me for the first time here, we're trying to get the band back together. The one and only David Weiss, Salman himself at D Weiss Comedy, Salman from the Dennis Miller Show. Welcome to Mets Wrap 360, Mr. Weiss.
What's up, America?
That's right. And of course, our recent, fourth co-host, guest host.
Yes.
I don't know what you are, but we love having you, Melissa
Thank
Weinstein.
you.
At
Guys.
Melissa Weinstein.
No.
Thanks for being here. No? Oh, at Melissa Wine.
Yeah, a briefs.
Somebody had
A briefs, Christian.
totes of briefs or
Yes.
just regular
Totes
briefs?
of briefs.
Totes of briefs.
Yes.
By the way, your brother's in the chat and says, "Let's go Mets."
Hi, Bri.
So if you're in the chat on YouTube as we're doing the show live on Sunday at 5:30 Pacific, you will probably get a shout out. Brian Weinstein just got 2 shout outs just now. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's start with the big Mets news. Jay Bruce, which, of all the options that they had, we talked a little bit last week. I wasn't really sure about who they might get. Jay Bruce, the argument against him was, well, they already have too many outfielders. Hey, guess what? That's not a problem when all your outfielders end up on the disabled list. I'll start ladies first. Melissa, your thought on the Jay Bruce acquisition?
Same thing you just said. I was really worried about it because, again, we're a National League team. We need to have someone who not only can hit but has a place in the field, and that was a really big concern. But I'm happy to have him with his home run Thursday and Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good that he's on the team. Obviously, we need more than just one person who can come through for us, but he's doing well so far. I'm looking forward to see what he does.
I can't think of the last time the Mets had a player who was leading the National League in RBI. Now, granted, he hit almost all of them for the Reds, but still, he's on the team and he's leading the league in RBI. Oh, you got stats.
Yeah.
Look at all those
Stats.
You got highlighted stats.
Yeah, well, highlighted is a loose term. It's my scented yellow magic marker.
Yes,
What is it?
I smell
Wait.
Mets desperation on that paper.
What,
Yeah.
what does it smell like?
I think it only smells when you're actually writing, but we can try
okay.
later. Okay.
Anyway, so yes, what do
per
you have?
Elias, Jay Bruce is the first player to be traded during a season while leading his league in RBIs, which was since RBI became an official stat in 1920. So
Okay.
ridiculous that a team would give him up, but I'm glad the Mets were the one to
Do you remember?
to get him.
I mean, it was only a week ago, but what? No, seriously. I mean, the trade is so one-sided. What did the Mets give up?
I mean, Dilson Herrera was a pretty big piece of that, and I know it's not current.
I mean, for years they were saying he was going to be the second baseman of the future. However, he had been the second baseman of the future for a few weeks here and there, and I don't think they were that impressed. So they were more than happy to give him up. I mean, at one point, Nimmo, your friend, Brandon Nimmo, was in the trade, and I knew you were really upset.
I just want his
and you
smile.
were like, I can't even deal with this. Until we know for sure. And then you, all caps, the smile is staying.
I was
she wrote
so
on Twitter.
excited. Let's be honest, though. August 2nd and August 3rd without Brandon Nimmo for the hour that he was in Vegas was pretty traumatizing.
Yeah. Did you, were you able to get over that? The fact that he spent an hour in Vegas?
Yes.
By the way, I think that David/Salman will agree. You could do a lot of damage in Vegas with only 1 hour, right?
Absolutely. You don't even have to leave the airport.
It's true.
It's very
Slop
true.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, did you know, by the way, Melissa, this is a side bar. Do you know what Nimmo's Twitter handle is?
You found Nemo.
That's right.
We love You Found Nemo. There's some underscores in there, but
Took me a while to figure out that one, but when I got it, I thought it was great.
And I think Keith calls him Nemo, like consistently.
On purpose?
No, I don't
would.
think so. You know, it's hard to say.
better, it's
But
better.
anyway, so David/Sal, when you heard that the Mets had acquired Jay Bruce, making it 2 seasons in a row that they actually added someone who can hit to the team, did you feel like this couldn't possibly be the Mets, or were you underwhelmed by the trade?
I felt the trade was kind of a tie. Cespedes immediately went on the DL.
Yeah.
They're
So it
gonna-
looked even better after that.
Right. So they replaced him with Bruce, who really is not the hitter that Cespedes is, if you take a look at the numbers. And they don't have enough outfielders. They're down 2 or 3 pitchers. They've got a very tough schedule coming up through the end of the season. I would be very surprised to see them take a wild card spot.
Right, I do think that that's kind of all they can hope for at this point is a wild card spot. Look, I feel like Jay Bruce added a little bit more pop to the lineup, which clearly with all the injuries just didn't have it. The fact that, we've talked in weeks past about how great James Loney has been and what an asset he's been. And it's true, I didn't like it when they first got him, but it's been great. And, to add somebody else, it's like, well, guys like James Loney and Jay Bruce, not anybody that we were thinking of earlier in the season.
No, but professional players.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, and, guys who can field. That's important. I mean, granted we have 5 left fielders, but that's besides the point. Did you have a thought, Melissa, or were you just waving to your brother on the camera?
I was just saying the 5 left fielders thing. It's a joke at this point.
It is
I
a
mean,
joke.
by the way, Granderson looked good in center field today. I know he's 36.
Technically a right fielder.
Yeah.
But whatever.
No, but let's put it this way. We don't have a center fielder. We still
No.
don't,
No.
And you know what? If we could, this is probably, someone's going to yell at me for saying this, we could probably take a center fielder out and just have a left and a right.
Well,
let him fill the gap.
I mean, maybe in
That's an
Lagares' heyday.
That's an extreme shift.
That's a very extreme.
I'm
Where
just-
are you putting that
I'm
player?
just really disappointed with the Mets right now.
As well you should be, which is a great time
Yeah.
to have people check out Mets Wrap 360. And by the way, just to prove my point that if you say anything in the chat room, I'll give you a shout out. Cyril Moore feels like Cyril Moore needs to say, "Go Braves." Yeah,
Oh,
just
man.
go. No, go. Go far away. It's a terrible
Yeah.
year for you.
Don't they have a new stadium?
Go to your
Go
new
there.
stadium where there's a parking lot on the other side of a freeway and no bridge to connect it. But thank you for watching,
Really?
Cyril. We appreciate it. Oh, yeah. Anyway, so that's what I think of the Jay Bruce trade. John Neese, I think, is somebody who it would have been fine if he was with the team all year. What I think about the John Neese trade, it's definitely addition by subtraction. So long, Bastardo, who lived up to his name, by the way.
Oh my
And-
gosh.
Ouch.
What?
That's mean.
What? Did I name him?
But
Bastardo?
you said it.
Yeah.
But
I wonder what
speaking of
that actually means in Spanish.
It actually means,
Because it can't mean what we think it means.
No, it actually in Spanish means can't throw strikes. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I
Ow,
wonder where Nice is
true.
living, if he's still living out of the hotel, because as I'm sure many people saw on Twitter, that when Nice and Walker were traded for one another in the offseason, Jonathan Nice leased his apartment to Neil Walker. Neil Walker
Really?
is
And
now...
oddly
In
enough,
other words, least.
yeah. And oddly
sounds a
enough,
little
this
sketchy.
is really just for Sal. Oddly enough, though, he had to share the apartment with Kekic's wife.
Oh.
Some Yankee wife swap, if you want to Google that.
Yeah.
but-
Let's go back to the 70s.
Here's the thing that I'll say about John Neese. I've had it with the Logan Verrett experiment. He always pitches just bad enough to lose. They'll say, oh, this guy pitches just well enough to win. Well, he doesn't. He always pitches just poorly enough to give up 1 or 2 extra runs after the 4th inning.
I read on the crawl today or yesterday that they're considering bumping him from the rotation.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, and I think they should because, Zach
can.
Wheeler had an inning in Port St. Lucie. He might be back soon. But they can because you just switch him and John Neese. I'll take John Neese as a 5-starter because I haven't seen him do it yet. Let's see what happens. There's a couple of light opponents coming up, which we'll talk about in the week ahead. Let's see him at some point. But they are also positioning one of the AAA players for a possible spot start.
It is very dicey because they have no options.
Yeah.
Pitching wise, they must go with John Neese. They must bring up somebody from AAA who may not be ready. There are no other pitchers available.
It's true. They looked around. They kicked the tires on a few pitchers for the Braves. Cyril, there you go. And by the way, my nemesis from the Tomorrow Show, Jared Gilkerson's in the chat room. Wants to make sure that he knows. Go Tribe. You guys are having a great year. Very unexpected. Good for you. Maybe Cleveland is going to be title town this year. Oh, and then he has a great comment, though, Jared does. Maybe Strawberry will come back. I'll take him at this point. He looks like he could probably...
Did you watch that 30 for 30?
Daryl wasn't the problem. Daryl could come back before Doc. Doc... we talked about it on here. It's very sad to watch Doc because you always feel like anytime you see any interview with Doc, there could be sort of one of those fade to black and, sort of this afterward mention about, unfortunately, that he's no longer with us because you look at Doc, you should see this 30 for 30.
Okay.
Because
he looked like
he's alive and, he's going day by day, but you know what he says? That he can't even look at it day by day. It's like it's hour by hour. Like, I just got to go minute by minute. Wow. Because he's in rough shape. Daryl, on the other hand, he found God, and it seems like he's embraced that.
He lives in Missouri or something.
He seems to be doing well. And look, love both those guys, but it's sad to see Doc at this point. And look what you did, Gilkerson. You got me off on the 86 Mets, but that's all right. I will always talk about the 86 Mets, especially over the 2016 Mets. We want to, before we look at the week we just had, we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the best and worst Mets trades of our lifetimes. And as the member of the panel who has been the Mets fan the longest, I'll start with you, Sal. You have, of course...
that's not exactly a title I'm proud of.
As the oldest person on the
Not
panel.
Exactly another title I'm proud of.
But you have what is definitely the quintessential worst Mets trade.
I'm the senior Mets
fan. Senior Mets correspondent, David Weiss. Worst Mets trade.
Well, the worst Mets trade is, of course, the Nolan Ryan to the Angels for Joe Foy and Jim Fregosi.
Jim Fregosi was going to hit 300.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's crazy because they felt like Nolan Ryan had reached the ceiling. Kind of like the Dodgers with Pedro. They're like, we've gotten what we got.
Puig.
Oh, goodness.
Except Puig's still around.
Yeah, but not for long.
He will be this year. But anyway, that's probably the worst Mets trade. I mean, the Tom Seaver trade was not great, but they did get, I think, 4 prospects. I think none of them panned out.
I'm counting that as the saddest trade.
The Seaver is the saddest trade?
Yeah, because
that's all you had to root for at that point?
Well, it was Seaver, who was already Seaver. When they did Nolan Ryan, he wasn't established yet. I mean, you could say, well, he was a prospect, we didn't know. But, it turned out to be the worst trade ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard.
Melissa?
It's hard to top that, but Melissa, and we'll do best trades as a second round. But what do you have as a worst?
Worst trade ever. Well, let's go with this one. Worst trade ever. Gary Apple for Gary Cohen.
Oh, that's just mean. You want to talk about mean?
You're in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, she's dealing with the broadcast booth. So Gary Cohen goes on vacation. He didn't get traded, and look, Gary Apple seems like a nice guy, but
and I give him credit. Play-by-play is so
it's
difficult.
Very hard.
It's a completely different beast than
I did it
in-studio.
twice for Pepperdine college baseball games and thought it would be fun. And I had fun, but it was exhausting to just try and keep track of everything. And I know that's nothing compared to a major league game, and that's the point. But Gary Apple seems like a nice enough guy. But what really killed me, and I texted you this, or I think I tweeted it at you, the fact that Keith Hernandez called him Gare.
It hurts.
His nickname for Gary Cohen. At first, I just thought he was saying Gare, and he was calling somebody Gary who wasn't Gary, which was funny to me, and then I realized it was Gary Apple. Now, that was very upsetting, but for people that didn't watch the Mets this week, they probably didn't notice. So do you have a player transaction that was the worst?
The worst one, I would say Angel Pagan to the Giants for Andres Torres and Ramon Ramirez, because do you know who those guys are?
I remember Andres Torres, sure.
No.
But
that's about...
Angel Pagan continued to, when he was healthy, which was always the problem, continued to do really well. I have, there's so many that I could think of, but in terms of semi-recent memory, Scott Kazmir for Victor Zambrano will always kill me because, one, allegedly, Al Leiter didn't like Scott Kazmir. Two, Scott Peterson said, I can fix what's wrong with Victor Zambrano in 10 minutes. It's a very infamous thing that he said. And that 10 minutes lasted 2 miserable, painful years. But the crazy thing was, Cyril, I was in Atlanta when that trade was pending, and they got oh no, I forgot his name now. Oh, Chris Benson and Victor Zambrano, like at the same time, and you were hoping for either or, and you're like, oh my God, they got these two great pitchers, and I thought they were great. Chris Benson and Victor Zambrano, they're definitely going to the playoffs. And we all remember the 2004 playoff Mets, right? No, of course we don't, because they were terrible. But they started advertising, reserve your playoff ticket strip, and well, it was a miserable time. And of course, look, there are worse in more recent memory. But I'll talk about a couple of what I see as best. There's one that's often forgotten about and may or may not pan out. It looked like it was going to pan out, but Carlos Beltran for Zach Wheeler. I still feel okay about that because Beltran had a couple months left. He was going to be around for a couple months, and that was it. So the Giants gave up their best pitching prospect for a rental, and it didn't really help them. That was one of the years they didn't win the World Series. But Matt, who's usually on the panel, he has a tie. Keith Hernandez, I will certainly give him that. Tied with Noah Syndergaard, which, easy to remember when you think about the Noah Syndergaard trade. It was reigning Cy Young winner R.A. Dickey, and that trade didn't just have Syndergaard, it also had d'Arnaud.
Yeah.
So I feel, considering Dickey's a great guy, I read his book, seems like a really nice guy. Really glad that we haven't had him on the team the last few years.
So that's actually what I put down for what I felt at the time was the worst trade, but has become one of the best because obviously
in
really
hindsight.
evaluate.
No, at the moment you're like, wait, they traded the guy who won the Cy Young?
Exactly. And also we got rid of Josh Thole and Mike Nickias. So we got rid of 2 catchers and got 2 catchers in return. We got John Buck, right? That was his name?
Yeah, John Buck,
Yes.
who led the league for April of that year.
Yes, but at least we had him because then we didn't call d'Arnaud up until John Buck's wife had their baby.
And
then
you got to
d'Arnaud
sit next to his grandfather at Petco Park.
Yes, I did. Actually, the next year I sat next to him again too.
So you and d'Arnaud and Grandpa d'Arnaud are BFFs?
Do you,
Yes,
think
obviously.
that was an accident, or he arranged that?
I really hope it was an accident.
Let's find out. By the way, Grandpa d'Arnaud, if you're watching, howdy. That was a good one. I have to say, immediate memory, Cespedes was obviously great. The Santana one was fantastic, giving up Carlos Gomez, great, no
That's
problem.
what I think is the funniest part about that.
What's that?
Carlos Gomez.
Trying to get him back last
Yes.
year? Yeah.
Like,
But considering that they gave him up for a Cy Young winner who threw the only Mets no-hitter, it's okay. But I would say hands down the best, most impactful trade of my lifetime was Mike Piazza. There's hardly any argument against that. Do you have a best, Mr. Weiss, that comes to mind, or have we said all the good ones and you have more bad ones to think of?
I'm thinking Cespedes is the best right now.
The immediate impact he had, the fact that they probably don't make the playoffs, much less the World Series, without that.
Without him.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Unfortunately, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I think he's a little injury prone.
which brings us to our next topic. Cespedes on the DL. And, they swore up and down that him playing golf during the day didn't aggravate his injury.
No,
but then
he was
Sandy
already
admitted
injured.
the optics were bad, and they've asked him to not play golf while he's injured
so
anymore.
let me pose a question.
Sure.
They're saying that the golfing didn't really do anything, didn't hurt him even more.
Right.
But everyone's, they see how it affects his baseball game. They see how his injury is hurting him. But how did it affect his golf game? What was his score? How many bogeys?
Melissa
Only
has an
Mark
excellent point.
only Mark Carrig would be able to get that answer.
And I have to be honest, I didn't come up with that on my own. I woke up this morning to a text from my father saying, please discuss this tonight.
It's a great point, though. I'd like to know how his golf game is doing right now.
Yeah.
But look, here's the thing. So he goes on the DL after they tried to kind of prevent having to put him on the DL, hoping that maybe he could DH. And it's not even a complaint about this decision to not DL Cespedes right away, although I do think they should have put him on the DL 2 weeks ago, and maybe he'd be back now. It seems like the majority of the season, there's at least one, usually 2, sometimes 3 guys who aren't really available. They're not on the DL. they're just hoping that they can work through something. You know, put some of these guys on the DL once in a while. Bring people up. I know you brought everybody up there on the team anyway, but just use the DL for God's sake.
That's what it's there for.
It's what it's there for, and it's like it hasn't really worked. A lot of teams are injury prone and bitten by injuries. And look, they've made some good decisions, like signing Reyes for a bag of balls and a bat.
Is he going to come back?
I think he'll be back at some point
saying
because of the kind of injury.
I don't
They're
think
saying
so.
he might be back within the next week and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about injury prone. I mean,
Well, there's a reason.
This guy tweaks a calf. He's gone for 6 weeks.
It's true, but I really want to drink that bottle of wine.
Me
so
too.
I
I'm
hope.
sorry, you got to fill me in on this.
There's a bottle of Cabernet, and this calls to fact.
Cabernet.
Cabernet. It's got his face on it. It's Cabernet.
I get
Thank you,
it.
smart guy.
I get it.
And I don't have it with me because I knew we weren't going to drink it today. Reyes has been on the DL. This was not a week to drink in celebration, but maybe we should have lined up some shots, just out of misery.
So he's a winemaker?
So this is a bottle of wine I bought in like 2008. It's probably terrible, but I bought it when I was in
at
New
the
York.
Mets store on Fifth Avenue?
No, it was at like ShopRite in Fishkill, New York. So
Did you get a bobblehead?
I wish
for free?
if I did, it would be right here in front of me at the desk for those watching on YouTube. So yeah, look, it's the management of the DL probably has cost a couple of wins. There's a lot of reasons the Mets have lost so many games this year, but I think having a healthy roster, even if you have some of these other, more of these fringe minor leaguers as your guys off the bench, at least you have a guy who can come up and pinch hit, maybe even pinch run, And it's just they've been playing shorthanded for feels like most of the season.
Yes. I mean, once Duda went down, Loney's been doing fantastic, but he does not have that kind of power. And to go down 25 home runs to like 5, we can't replace that.
Well, Joan in the chat room mentions a great name that has become available. He has been released by the Tribe. That's right, Jared. Go Tribe. They cut Juan Uribe, who I feel like for just having him in his suits in the locker room before the game, whether he even gets into a game or not, I think he could energize. We talked a lot about how Nimmo and his smile was really bringing something that was lacking to the clubhouse. And having him as an occasional pinch hitter, I think, sure, why not? Because I think he's cleared waivers or he's about to. And at this point, like, who are you going to send down to make room for him?
The Mets did mention that was a possibility.
Yeah, well, they didn't want to discount him. Yeah, I'm fine with that. I would love to have him back. So thank you, John, for reminding me. Because nowhere in my notes did I write that down, even though I thought of it a week ago. But I've been so angry at the Mets this last week, I forgot to use my head when I put my notes together. Speaking of the week that we just had, let's talk a little bit about it quickly. So they went 2-2 against the Yankees. And someone on this panel last week said she'd be okay if they only won 1. So you must be great. You must be so happy that they won 2. Right, Melissa?
No, because they should have won Game 3. They should have taken 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Game 1 they weren't winning. Well, no. Game 1 was the game that Reed picked a bad time to cough up a lead, and Seth Lugo got set down because of that. Because there was that crazy at bat by Didi Gregorius of the Yankees, aka the not Derek Jeter of the Yankees, and somehow he had a Derek Jeter kind of at bat. And because of that, the Yankees won in extra innings. And that was a game that they could have won. But yes, the game you're talking about is a game they should have won.
Yes, and going back to Monday, if you start the game off with throwing a guy out who's going for an inside the park homer, you should win.
You should definitely win
absolutely.
that game. That should be very deflating to the other team. Of course, through the Yankees, they should be already very deflated after they basically gave up the whole team. But they are going to have a great farm system, which we talked about. But this isn't Yankees Wrap, so screw them. So we'll just go ahead and turn the page on Monday because Tuesday, to me, was the only really fun game of the whole week because Tanaka looked terrible, DeGrom was great, and the Mets won 7-1. It was 7-0 till the 9th inning. So I was like, great, this is the kind of game we need, and we should have more of those. But unfortunately, the next 2 games against the Yankees weren't that way. Wednesday was the most frustrating game, and this is when I'll let other people talk. But Wednesday was infuriating. The Mets had so many opportunities to blow the game wide open before they even got their first out. And Matz just didn't have it. He gave everything back. He gave back a little more. He just looked awful. And I don't think it has anything to do with bone spurs in his arm or bone chips or banana chips or whatever's going on with him. I don't know. But at the same time, it's like, you got to get these guys out. Look at that Yankee lineup. How are you not getting those guys out? That was my Chris Russo for everybody. But I don't know. So, Melissa, I didn't even write the score down for that game because it hurt so much, although I think it was 9-5. Your thoughts on the Wednesday night game? The Mets occur in the Bronx. Yeah, I just came up with that.
That was beautiful.
Thank you, me.
Beautiful.
I'm very proud of that.
I'm going to be completely honest. I don't remember much past the first inning.
Well, the first 5 batters reached.
Yes, for the first time in 5 years. The last time it happened, the Mets won the game. But whatever, let's not talk about how the Mets used to be good.
I mean, especially not in 2001 because they weren't good.
11.
That's what I mean. I had the last digit right. They also weren't good in 2001. Correct. But 2011, they were not good, yeah.
And, I mean, the first 5 guys on with nobody out.
Yeah.
And they only scored 2 runs in the first.
And then in the next inning, the pitcher...
The first 2 got on.
The Yankee pitcher was bringing everybody out. Like, he was begging you to knock him out of the game. Like, he clearly wanted to take a shower, and you just didn't let him.
And it was one of those...
Last in baseball with runners in scoring position, yes?
Yes. Both the Mets and Yankees are pretty terrible at that.
Numbers don't lie.
They don't. So, that was just an awful game, and we're not going to talk anymore about it because we had a good game on Thursday night.
Jay Bruce.
Oh,
yeah, Bartolo Colon.
Bartolo Colon.
Big sexy.
As a fly ball pitcher in New Yankee Stadium, you felt like, all right, this is a game that, it's going to really depend on, does he have his stuff? How many of his baby mamas is he worried about in his head at the time? I mention it every week because I know it bothers you.
Really
but
does.
I knew it would make you laugh too. Look, I love it. As Matt said one week, we hope he has like 6 or 7 secret families. Whatever helps him continue to pitch beyond this year.
How do you keep them separated in the stands?
That's all you have to do. But he pitched great that night. And, Familia got his 38th save. There had been some hiccups last week, as we talked about. Homer from Kelly Johnson, bit of an unsung hero. When he's in the lineup, seems like he hits a home run. I think that's probably generalizing it a little bit. But then Jay Bruce, who may have been my player of the week before last night, did just what you brought him there to do, hit a home run, and it was a 3-run home run.
His first hit as a New York Met.
First hit as a New York Met.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
This was a fun fact. The last Met to hit a home run in his first Met at bat.
George Theodore.
No.
Okay.
Choo-Choo Coleman.
No.
Okay.
Jeremy Hefner.
Wait a minute. The pitcher?
Sure.
Wow.
And they said that on the broadcast, but then I went in and I was trying to figure out his lifetime batting average.
Jeremy Hefner.
Yes, lifetime batting average 2 for 52.
What was the other one? Was
that?
it also a home run? Which would be great.
Can you do
it
the
was
math
not-
on that? That would be great.
I mean, I could, but not right now because it's too complicated. I mean, I guess I can.
No, 52 divided by 2 is 26. So that's all you needed to know.
Wait, so he's
No, that's
like
not right.
0.026?
I don't
Is that
know.
his average?
It might be, but
Wait, Melissa's doing it.
Melissa will do long division over there.
She's doing it with a pink highlighter.
All right. So anyway, that was a somewhat satisfying split with a terrible Yankees team. There was that one game they just weren't going to win, but I felt like they should have won 3 of those. But how many times here on the show do we talk about games the Mets should have won? Well, we're about to talk about a couple more. So Friday was a game that was way too close. They only lost by 1 run, 4-3. Verlander looked great through 5 or 6 innings, and then it was like, it was going to be very easy to score some runs off of him, but they just couldn't. And the problem isn't so much with the plays that the Mets made. It was the first of 2 consecutive nights where Terry decided not to challenge a call because I guess he forgets that baseball has instant replay now. He's been in the game so long, maybe he doesn't remember that he doesn't have an actual challenge flag like in the NFL, and that might be the problem.
What was the first one?
It was a base run. It was a really close play at second that if they had challenged it would have gone the Mets' way. And Tigers runner who went on to score, and they only won by 1. So that was frustrating. I don't know about the Saturday play at the plate.
But here's my thing.
He looked out.
He looked out, but what's your
I
point?
don't care if he was out. I don't care if he looked out.
Here's
You used the challenge.
You have a challenge.
What are you saving it for?
But here's the thing. I don't care if he was safe. what if the guys in the booth in Chelsea said that the catcher was blocking the plate? It didn't
Right.
look like he was, but again, as we discussed last week,
mean-
it's up to the umpire's
No,
opinion,
Melissa
which
is
is
right. The umpires make the call.
You
not
don't get to take that challenge home and save it for the next game. You might as well use it. All it means is that the Tigers have to stay out on the field a little bit longer.
And are they going to get annoyed? Yes, but I don't care how
They're
they
the
feel.
opposition.
The
Get-
whole
annoy
point,
them, you know?
You have challenges
Yeah.
for this exact scenario.
I mean,
I'm really angry
now,
about this.
Was it a brain fart, or did he just go, meh?
Well, there's the other part of that play is if he didn't block the plate, Salty Milwaukee didn't block the plate, Jay Bruce didn't touch home plate. So
But
no,
was it-
you're not my player of the week, Jay
But
Bruce.
was it because he was blocking the plate? Like,
Yeah.
it drives
Did
me
he try and get
nuts.
around him because he was
Like,
blocking the plate?
Terry Collins can have brain farts all he wants, but he's got guys in the dugout to make sure he does not have them publicly.
true.
And they have to cover for him on that. And I'm
That's
just,
true.
I'm
no,
upset.
you're
Look, that-
absolutely right.
and
Those
that-
are two potential wins.
That-
and if they lose, I'm sorry, Christian.
No, but that play at the plate was the tying run. So yeah, you may or may not have won, but you would have definitely continued playing beyond that. So it was huge. And again, the Mets seem to be really bad at building any kind of momentum because
Right.
they had we talked last week, they had a couple of really bad blown saves, especially that one game against the Cardinals where Cespedes hit the home run. You came back. It was like a big rallying point. You could look back on and be like, "Yep, that's when it all turned around." But no, because they're the Mets, they have to have the guy thrown out at home plate and not challenge. So yeah, that was probably just as painful as those, maybe even more so because of the way it ended at the plate. That if you get them to review it and they say no, the call stands, he's out, game's over. Hey, at least you tried.
Right.
It's like getting one more at bat, seeing
Right.
if you could maybe get him home. So that was infuriating because those first two games against the Tigers, they could have very easily won both, but they certainly should have won one of them, and you can argue which one. So
One game still counts.
one game still counts, and fortunately, there was one good game since Wednesday, or since Thursday, I guess, and that was today. DeGrom seems like the only guy who can pitch right now. So thanks, Jake. Keep letting your hair grow, whatever it takes.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, speaking of Atlanta earlier,
I'm
there-
sorry, let me interrupt. Melissa has a drawing of Jacob deGrom in her book here.
his hair looks beautiful there.
You guys are awful.
By the way, I like when Mr. Met wears the Jacob deGrom wig. I haven't seen that
I've
this year.
never seen that.
Google for the
I will.
picture. Yeah,
It's right there.
I'll tweet it out. It's in your
You guys are
dream.
awful.
It's in her dream journal. Anyway, last night Keith Hernandez called me Gare. It felt right. You're like, no, that doesn't feel right because only Gary Cohen is Gare. I'm sorry.
Gary Cohen is everything.
He'll be back. He's probably
I
going to
know.
be back on Tuesday.
He will be.
No, he was like, are you saying he was gone today?
He was gone all weekend. He didn't want to go to Detroit. Don't blame him. That's right, Detroit people.
maybe
Tweet at
somebody-
ABTV
Maybe
Mets if you don't want
somebody
to
was
come.
graduating or something.
I think
I'm sure he had a legitimate reason.
maybe he just wanted a vacation.
That's a legitimate
Because when you're
reason.
considering how much time
From
Keith and Ron got,
Hernandez?
Keith did say that he has every weekend series the rest of the year, and he was very upset about it.
oh, because Ronnie works for TBS.
Exactly.
So yeah,
he was saying how upset he was last night, and then today, I don't know if you guys were watching on TV, but it sounded like he was a little tickle in his throat, a little
he
sick.
told the whole story about how the air conditioner was on too high at his hotel room on
And
Friday,
When Gary
mean,
Apple
it
says,
is-
you can turn that off.
which was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the peninsula.
So you see, that's why you should always watch the Mets broadcast of the games because you get stories like that. But anyway, let's talk about the good game, which was the fact that DeGrom looked great. He gets into the sixth. Conforto hits a home run. He hits a home run, and it gets a little rocky there in the seventh. There's some tough luck for him. He gets a no decision, but the important thing happens in the ninth inning. Neil Walker, 2-run home run off K-Rod. And as Keith pointed out, K-Rod had looked terrible in this series. He got two, just dumb luck saves. That game last night with the play-to-play should have been a blown save,
He
but
looked all gangly and uncoordinated.
I can't believe he's still a team's closer at this point, K-Rod, because it's just been such an up and down. But I think in Detroit, they don't have any other options.
No, except Detroit.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was a great win, and when we win on Sunday, it's a much better feeling to sit down and start this show. Because if we had lost, I was going to go through a whole thing about good teams versus bad teams versus terrible teams. Right now, the Mets are a bad team. They're not a terrible team. And this next week, which we'll talk about in a second, will really be kind of we're basically at the make or break point. But Melissa, today's game, we traded messages a little bit during it. Were you on the edge of your seat the whole time? Or
No.
did you feel good until, because it was 0-0 through like 5 innings or 6 innings?
I mean, it's exciting watching Jacob deGrom pitch, especially when he's so dominant, but
and the hair was flowing.
of course, and that's always, a sight to see. But it's disappointing at this point. I mean, the Mets are playing 500 on the road this year.
Yeah.
And they're one game above 500 since the All-Star break. They're not going to make the playoffs playing 500 ball, hoping that the other teams have a collapse.
Yeah.
You've got to start scoring. And watching today's game, I was trying to pay attention, but it was just a lot of anger flowing through me. And I don't like to get too angry.
You can get a little bit angry.
I have that when I watch Naked and Afraid.
That's valid.
I kind of feel like that's not that different than watching Mets games a lot of the time, because they're certainly afraid.
And I'm naked.
Oh my God.
Thank you. I'm glad you said it.
I'm not
That's
coming
okay.
back.
So I don't know what you watched in terms of which games you saw this week, but Sal, your
Yes.
thoughts on the Mets as a whole as we reach this point of the season before we look ahead to this next week in the last few minutes.
Well, I think, as Melissa said, this is a crucial time. We're at August 8th. August 8th.
August 7th, but
That's what
it'll
I
be
said.
tomorrow.
August 7th.
in Nova Scotia. It's already
August 7th in Nova Scotia. And they've got, month and a half,
Less than a third.
less than a third, as Melissa says, correcting me twice in one speech.
She's mad about the Dream Journal.
She's mad about the
Journal.
Dream Journal.
Yeah.
But they got to put the hammer down.
There's
Cespedes,
one guy has a hammer. His name's Thor. He better put it down.
I don't think he has his hammer right now.
All right,
I
then
think-
loan the hammer
I
to
think-
Jacob deGrom.
I think there are chips in his elbow, and they're trying to get him through, and it's just not going to work. If he's a 500 pitcher the rest of the way, I think that's good.
For
For
Syndergaard.
Syndergaard,
Yeah.
yeah. And the same with Matz. I think he's going to decline as we go from now until the end of the season. And that just leaves DeGrom, and you can't do it with only one pitcher.
Well, they always say you should play, around 500 against good teams and beat up on the bad teams.
Right.
The Mets have not done that, but they're about to get an amazing opportunity to beat up on bad teams. The week ahead, they're at home, which is definitely their advantage. 3 against the D-backs, 3 against the Padres. And the third game against the D-backs is a 9 a.m. Pacific time start. Always great for those of us who sit at home and watch the Mets during the day.
Not that we do that.
No,
Not
we
us.
talk about on the show
Not-
how much we do.
Not
that
us.
he does it.
Not us, not me,
and-
not Christian, maybe Melissa.
Maybe.
Maybe, because she likes to stay home and color.
Look, if there's a Mets coloring book, I would want one for not just for Felix, but one for myself.
No, it's not a
one
coloring
for
book.
me.
She's got all these.
She's got one pink highlighter. That's all she has
Oh,
today.
there's a blue one. There's purple.
There's a lot of
orange.
colors.
I
in
had to
that.
color code my notes to make sure that I could quickly identify them based on what we were talking about.
I tell you, I said this before the show that Melissa's attention to detail is fascinating.
It is, and that's actually how we met. Was that
Yes.
we talked about this a few weeks ago? That Sal and I were at a game
Yes.
at Dodger Stadium, and we wanted a friendly Mets fan to take our photo because a Dodger fan's going to steal and/or break our camera. So we saw Melissa. She had on a Mets hat and/or shirt, and she was keeping score. So we're like, we're gonna talk to her.
Yeah.
Best decision.
And I know, look where they got you. They got you on the AfterBuzz TV
I love it.
Mets Wrap 360.
What was that? 5 years ago?
Wasn't
Wasn't that
Four.
I think it was 2012.
Wasn't that at Petco?
No.
No. I
That's
went with you
later.
the next year.
We knew
Oh,
her
okay.
at Petco. It was like we messaged on Twitter and was like, "Hey, come hang out." And then you're like, "I just met Travis Darno's grandpa. He gave me his phone number. Is that
Stop.
weird?" She didn't say that.
Hey, little girl, want my digits?
Oh, now, careful. Anyway, so that's how we met. It was your attention to detail, your color-coded score. I would like you to show your scorecard to Keith Hernandez because
I would love to.
of the fact that we know the detail with which he keeps score. Anyway, so back to the issue at hand. This week that's coming up, 3 against the D-backs, 3 against the Padres, and we'll look a little bit past that. 3 more against the D-backs in Arizona. So like through next Wednesday, that's 9 games. You should technically win all of them, but let's say you win 7 of 9. However you want to do that, and that's a Star Trek reference, by the way. I wish Zach was here for my 7 of 9 reference. You got that at least, right? Thank you, Steven. But they should win 7 of 9 games. Yes.
Because I guess you got mad that I said
you said you only wanted to win 1 game against the Yankees.
They're going to go 9 for 9.
9 for 9.
You did your Russo impression.
I know, but she's getting me worked up, and she knows it.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Anyway, so they have a great opportunity. You know, after that, they're going to play the Giants and the Cardinals, but we'll talk about that next week. These games against the D-backs and Padres, they got nothing to play for. Mets barely have something to play for. If you have anything left to play for beyond next week, you got to play this week. And I don't care who you put in the lineup. As long as they're healthy and they want to be there, that's great. Anybody's old and tired, they can sit on the bench, all right?
It's very specific.
They got to hustle.
And there are guys who hustle.
There are.
And we'll get to that with my unexpected player of the week. But Monday, tomorrow, it's mercifully an off day. So I can catch my breath. I need to take a breath, take a step back, take a little break from the Mets. So I need that day. I love the off days. I don't care if the Mets players need it. They might need it, but I need it more than they do because I'm the one who has to watch every game. They don't watch every game. They sit in the dugout. They chew sunflower seeds. They give each other hot foots and, bubble gum on the hat and all that. Kids today. So the first game that they have is a matchup. Steven Matz against Zach Greinke, who's coming off the DL. So the one thing about him coming off the DL is that he's had a lot of rest. But Zach Greinke has not looked great this year. And if there's a game that I feel like the pitching matchup is not in their favor, it's certainly that one. Because wait till you hear the others. Robbie Ray against Bartolo Colon and Zach Godley against Noah Syndergaard. You probably haven't heard of those guys.
Are they real?
Those are their real names, and they both have ERAs over 5. So you have to beat those guys. You should be able.
That's got to be 2-1.
You should.
They've got to win that series.
You should be able to beat Greinke as well, but you have to win those other 2. There's
Melissa, I have a numbers question. Is Paul Goldschmidt a Met killer or is it just a Dodger killer?
I don't know. I can look it up for you after the game.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Thanks, Melissa.
You're welcome.
What color are you?
But look, she's writing it in pink, and she wants to know.
I don't want it in pink. I want it in green.
I don't have green with me.
You don't have.
But if you're going to do it after the game, can't you go home and get green?
I'll rewrite it after the game.
Can't you write it in D-backs purple?
Yeah, when I get home.
Okay.
I have all the colors.
All right, well, Melissa will tweet it out to all of us at Melissa Wine. She'll send it. I think that's what it comes down to. Is like, that's how they have to do it. And I'm just going to assume that because they're the Mets, they're not going to be able to, win all 6 of these games. They're going to somehow lose a game to the Padres. So they should win all those games. But
it'll be like 2-4.
Do you think they're going to win 2 and lose 4?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, nope. I think that they
6-4-6, 6-4-6.
You are an optimist.
Well, I have to be because last week I said I'd be happy if they won 1, and now Christian's yelling at me. So
why do you keep bringing it up? You know I'm going to yell again. It's the Yankees. There's a lot of other teams you can go 1-3 against, but not the Yankees. Anyway, especially that Yankee team. Congratulations to A-Rod. Glad to hear you're retiring. Anyway, what?
I don't. That really looked like the least voluntary retirement in history.
They're going to make him earn the rest of his keep, though. It's like, you don't have to play anymore, but you have to be an instructor.
Oh yeah, here's a broom. You're an instructor.
Look, you knew something was up with A-Rod when Girardi didn't put him in the lineup against Cologne, who he has like a crazy career numbers, and he's like, that was a long time ago. Alex is a different player now.
As in not a player
at
all.
I know. And he's like, he's not getting in this game. Okay, clearly he's not getting in any games. So that's what we have to look forward to next week. We also have something else to look forward to next week. Both Matt and Andrea will be back next week. And we've appreciated having Melissa join us the last few weeks. We will have you back.
Thank you.
But, I kind of want the family to sit down to dinner together. No guests allowed next week. Of course. And, of course, we'll have Sal back if the Mets, which either way, if the Mets turn it around and good, or if they burn and crash and burn, smoldering ashes everywhere. You'll enjoy that more.
Or the number of complaints that you get.
But by the way,
Twitter.
The last time that I did a show with both Matt and Andrea, the three of us together, was 5 weeks ago. And you know how long ago that was? The Mets still had an optimistic look at the season. So that was a long time ago. So make sure you find us then. But I do want to end on Player of the Week in our final minutes here. And I'd like to go first. Mets Player of the Week, Ty Kelly. What? Ty Kelly, yes. He's the only guy on the team who exceeded expectations. Everybody was like, what is Ty Kelly doing in the lineup on Saturday? I don't know. What is he doing? Getting 2 hits and walking. Great. Good for you, kid. I hope he didn't get sent down today, but he probably will. He'll probably get sent down soon. But I was very excited. Melissa, do you have a Player of the Week?
I do.
Don't say anything about Gary Apple.
No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not awful. Hands down.
No, awful's the one sitting between us. Thank you.
Hands
Look at
down.
that penmanship.
Jacob deGrom.
He had 2 great starts.
I mean, 1 win, 1 no decision, allowed 1 run, and went 2 for 3 at the plate.
And was the run in today's game earned?
It was.
Okay.
And I looked, I was trying to find, a position player maybe for Player of the Week, but I really found 2 who were great at the plate but not in the field, and 1 who was great in the field and not at the plate. And it came down to Jacob deGrom.
Wait, so who were the other players, just real fast?
Walker and Loney were great at the plate, and Granderson was great in the field.
Yeah.
But Jacob deGrom, he is now 5 for 34 this year at the plate. And you know what? It's just going to keep going.
It's just going up.
And I think he was great this week.
And if Jay Bruce could have, tagged home plate, maybe he was going to be. I was really excited. I had a whole plan yesterday. I was thinking, in that split second before he got called out, I knew what I was doing. I was like, he's going to be the Player of the Week. We'll open with a Bruce Springsteen song. Maybe I'll yell Bruce. No, it didn't happen.
And then he made you think.
He made me work for this. Sal, do you have a Mets Player of the Week?
Actually, I have a Mets Manager of the Week, Mr. Terry Collins, for his 2 bonehead calls.
No, see, Player of the Week is supposed to be something that you're highlighting the positive.
This is my first time on the show. I'll do anything I goddamn want.
All right. Look, I can't disagree with that. So,
all right.
So he's the Mets Manager of the Week.
He's the Mets Manager of the Week. He blew 2 challenges, one at second and the other at home plate. Could have been 1 victory out of there. I hope we don't lose a wild card spot by 1 victory.
Oh, the Mets will either lose out on the wild card by 10 games or 1. There'll be nowhere in between.
You know what? I'd be okay with 10.
Well, 10, you'll know it's coming.
See, I always hate that. It's like, I'd rather lose by 1.
I completely disagree.
I mean, after the seasons that they had in 2007 and 2008, where they could have gotten into the playoffs on the last day and then they didn't, 1998 was the same way. It's a much worse feeling than when I don't really have to watch the last week of Mets games as closely. No, I do, but I don't, especially because of the show. But it's like you don't have to watch as closely. Anyway, well, for all of us here at Mets Wrap 360, we will indeed see you next week. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter at ABTVMets, for Melissa Weinstein at Melissa Wein, for Salman, a.k.a. David Weiss, at D Weiss Comedy. And I'm Christian Bladt, at Christian DMZ. We will see you next time on Mets Wrap 360.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.